Hello guys, it's your fellow investor here with another video. Today it's gonna be a little bit different video than the usual. This time I'm gonna be reacting to Meet Kevin's look at Hyliion because I've been suggested this idea in the comment section below, and I thought why not give it a shot and let's see what Meet Kevin has to tell us. Me personally, I don't really watch his videos, even though he just reached 1 million subscribers, so he definitely knows how to attract an audience, but it's not just the type of coffee I'd like to see, you know. It's not really the specific information I'm looking for, but I'm curious what he made about Hyliion. It's almost 40 minutes long video, so it's gonna be really interesting, so I'm looking forward to it and I hope you guys enjoy it as well. So without further ado, let's get into the video.
Hey everyone, me Kevin here. In this video, I'm going to review Hyliion. I'm going to start by telling you about the urgent need in trucking that Hyliion is trying to solve. Then I'm going to talk to you about how Hyliion plans to solve the urgent needs. Then I'm going to provide potential issues with Hyliion that may make Hyliion a potentially high-risk, high-reward play. We'll also compare Hyliion to Tesla at a few points throughout this video, so that way if you are interested in investing in the trucking space, remember you've kind of got three choices: Tesla, Hyliion, or Nikola. We're not really going to talk about Nikola here, so we've got Hyliion and Tesla. All right, let's get started. Quick note, about 20,000 of you saw a prior video on Hyliion from me last night, which was only up for about 30 minutes. It was poorly structured, and I cut out some important details, which was a mistake. So in this video, I'm going to provide all of the details. First, what is the need? Trucking is blowing up. There's no doubt about that because COVID has accelerated a trucking trend. More virtual orders, more shipping. We're ordering more furniture online than we ever have before. However, with more trucking demand comes more demand for trucking fuel and hopefully fuel-efficient vehicles, given that trucking is a massive polluter throughout the world. Transportation that limits carbon emissions is good. Long-haul and medium-haul trucking is failing right now. It is a big unsolved target. And this is where Hyliion is trying to join the solution and make a lot of money. Let's see if they can do it. There are currently 3 ways to reduce reliance on diesel or polluting fuels. Number 1, you can go to fully electric, battery electric vehicles. Number 2, you can go to fuel cell electric vehicles with batteries. And number 3, you can go to hybrid vehicles, which means just sort of adding on to systems like diesel vehicles now, and then having a fuel cell or battery system incorporated into this, so that way it's kind of like a Prius and you can trade off and minimize your reliance on diesel. Tesla plans to compete in spot number 1 with fully electric semi-trucks. Nikola plans to compete in spot number 2 with fuel cell hydrogen vehicles. Hyliion plans to compete in space number 2 and number 3. That's the fuel cell space and the hybrid space. Now, Hyliion has 2 products to compete, and Hyliion promises to be a disruptor in the electric vehicle space because of these 2 products. Product number 1, a hybrid electric powertrain. A powertrain is a motor system. This powertrain is installed in existing semi-trucks after the fact. This means any existing semi-truck can be converted to a hybrid electric power system, kind of like as if, let's say you could, nobody does this, but let's say you could, imagine if you could take your Camry, take it into Toyota, they put a hybrid system in, and you come out with a Camry, but now it's kind of like a Prius because it's a hybrid. So think of this as basically a retro-installed product that converts any existing semi-truck, doesn't matter if it's a Mack or a Freightliner or whatever, into a hybrid. With their hybrid system, you also get a computer system that uses machine learning, basically an algorithm, to try to teach the vehicle in terms of what the moment is that is best to use the diesel system or to use the battery electric system. So this way, they're trying to use kind of machine learning to say, oh, in this situation, let's use the battery. In this situation, let's use the diesel, or kick the fuel cell on now, or use the battery now. Basically, they're trying to make this trucking industry much more efficient by merging technology and artificial intelligence with electric vehicles in trucking. This is a retro system. It costs about $14,000, and the CEO, Thomas Haley, believes that a general trucker would be able to make back their investment in about 2 years using this system. Hyliion's second product is a Hypertruck ERX. This is an OEM-produced new truck that goes to Hyliion for the installation of an electric range extender, hence ERX. Now, to be very clear about this, the Hypertruck ERX is a new truck. However, Hyliion does not manufacture the trucks. Instead, they will partner with existing brands such as Freightliner, and then once the vehicle is purchased, it will go to Hyliion, and Hyliion will convert it or basically add their ERX system to it. Hyliion does not manufacture trucks. In fact, this is something specifically their CEO said they do not do. They believe their proficiency is in powertrain systems, that they are a powertrain company, not a truck manufacturer. So they're not competing with trucks. They do not make trucks. To sort of prove this, the easiest thing to do is go to hyliion.com and then click on the Hypertruck. Here, let's do it together. And sorry, I have a million tabs open at the top. But what we're going to do over here is go to Hypertruck ERX. And here you go. Here's the Hypertruck ERX that you can reserve now with a $5,000 deposit. You're going to see a lot of marketing about this vehicle being a net carbon negative emission solution. Keep this in mind. This is in almost all of their marketing, this net carbon negative. In fact, it's mentioned 4 times alone on this page, and it is mentioned throughout almost all of their branding. This becomes very, very important because there's a big asterisk on that, and you need to know about that asterisk if you invest in Hyliion. I'm not here to try to bag on Hyliion, and I'm not here to try to prop up Hyliion. I'm just here to provide perspective and good information.
They are highlighting this, that they are net carbon emission, because nobody else on the planet offers this solution, like not even Tesla or anyone else. Because with their product, with the Hyper ERX, there'll be, I believe it's just 25 miles in standard customization, but it's still a lot, you know. If you have 0 or 25 miles net carbon emissions, it's a big move forward, and nobody can really offer that. So yeah, they're kind of a game changer in this, and with their further customization, you can achieve even more miles. So they will definitely be engineers who are trying to pursue this and make it as efficient as possible.
This is why I remade this video with a lot more detail. But look at this, to make it very clear that Hyliion does not manufacture this car. See the Hyliion logo? Look what's right under it. Freightliner.
Of course, they do not manufacture it because it will be so much more expensive. It would take them much more time. It would end up like Nikola, you know, when they promise unbelievable things which won't happen. So they only focus on one thing, and then the rest is being done by their partnerships and associates, such as Dana, for example.
These are Freightliner trucks. These are Mack trucks that are retrofitted with Hyliion, whether they are brand new or not. The brand new vehicles are expected to retail for about $220,000 per vehicle. Now keep in mind, the typical starting cost of a semi-truck is around $130,000 to $180,000. So Hyliion's system would be more expensive. Okay, so the point here is they are making vehicles that are efficient to drive because they have the instant torque from electricity. However, you eliminate the downside of having as many heavy batteries as fully electric trucks. You eliminate the need to have charging infrastructure because you have a generator on board. Fuel cell is a type of generator, and that charges the battery. And you eliminate limited range because, well, you can just stop at a natural gas station and fill up. In the future, these will be hydrogen stations. All right, so moving on.
It's not really necessary to be hydrogen charging stations. It's no need. There's plenty of RNG and CNG, and there's a lot of it, and it's not being used. It's waste, actually. So it's not really necessary that it will have to be hydrogen. It's going to be another option for hydrogen, but right now it's really expensive. So instead, Hyliion focuses on RNG and CNG.
Hyliion's hybrid system works by installing a fuel cell. The current most popular fuel cell that you can use is natural gas. Another fuel cell you could use is hydrogen. That's what Nikola uses. However, hydrogen...
I don't think that Nikola uses it. They just want to use it, but it's for another video.
Good luck finding a station. There are very few hydrogen gas stations around. So hydrogen is not something that's going to help us transition now to a greener future. However, natural gas fuel cells have the potential of this. However, you do have issues with natural gas as well. The USA Today found that natural gas, regular compressed natural gas, is actually more of a pollutant than diesel. This is one of the reasons Hyliion really pushes that you should use renewable compressed natural gas. Renewable compressed natural gas, also known as...
So I had to stop the video here to do a little bit of research myself, and he's actually right. From the first article you can find, it's like 4 years old, over 4 years, 4.5 years actually. The article says that it emits or generates 20% more greenhouse gases than diesel. However, they do not account the origin of the fuel. You know, with diesel you have to do a lot of work to get it. However, with the CNG, it's not that hard, and I believe that's. Well, I'm not sure. I'm not certain, but he's got a point. So, but that's why Hyliion really is looking forward to using the ARX truck rather than the current hybrid solution. So overall, this is like 50-50. It's not really that big of difference, but with the Hyliion's hybrid solution, you get extra power, extra juice that you can use and use their trucks as a fleet owner more efficiently.
NG is much less available. It is cheaper than diesel, which is good. It's potentially as much as 30% more efficient than diesel, which is also good. But there are limits in terms of how much of it exists. So renewed natural gas is actually...
So in my country, I don't know why, but we have a CNG, compressed natural gas, as a more ecological fuel. So I don't know if like in America, in the US or somewhere else, it is like differently looked. But in my country, we see it as an eco-friendly fuel. But we might be wrong. I don't know. So I'll just continue the video.
Captured methane or bio-off gases from landfills and factories. They capture this polluting greenhouse gas and they use it as fuel for trucks. It's actually kind of brilliant. You capture bad stuff, you use it in trucks. So not only are you removing bad stuff from the air because of this capturing you're doing at farms and specific factories or landfills, but what you're also doing is you're preventing people from having to use diesel in their trucks or other polluting forms of fuel, which could be regular natural gas. And this is something important to know. Regular compressed natural gas is polluting as well. Technically, the EPA says it's 10% less polluting, but other research says the process that it takes to actually make the natural gas makes it more polluting than diesel. Anyway, the point is, renewable natural gas, or RNG, this sort of captured byproduct, is technically deemed net negative in terms of a carbon emitter. So it means you're actually taking more crap out of the air than you're putting into the air. Hyliion's business model is all based around developing fuel cells that accept natural gas, converting natural gas through a generator into electricity, and then using that to power batteries, which then aid Hyliion's diesel trucks by being a hybrid system, or you just make a fully electric vehicle using a natural gas fuel cell. So technically, is it really an EV? Yeah, actually it is. If you have a fully electric vehicle, except you put natural gas in, what that means is you're fueling it with natural gas, which is not electric, but you have an electric drivetrain and batteries, and you're operating the vehicle like an electric vehicle. So it is an EV.
Yeah, he's got a point. This is what many people confuses. They don't get it right, that they don't think that Hyliion is actually an EV play. However, here Kevin explained really nicely that it is technically an EV. But it is just powered by natural gas.
It's kind of like hydrogen. It's just the product you're putting into it. You're either plugging a vehicle in, you're putting hydrogen, or you're putting natural gas in. That would be how you could create an electric vehicle. Alternatively, you could, in theory, just put natural gas into a vehicle and burn it in like an internal combustion engine. You could do that as well. That is another option, but that's not what Hyliion is doing. Now, where does natural gas fit into the future of sustainable energy and sustainable transportation? Well, here you go. This is where it fits in. So right now we've got coal and diesel. These are known as the polluters. Even though there's like clean diesel and clean coal, these are known as the polluters. and I'm not taking a side here saying diesel or coal should go away. I'm not taking any arguments. All I'm saying is what we have is a situation where society slowly sees the path forward as one that's going to hydrogen power for vehicles or some form of renewable energy for vehicles, something that's 100% renewable.
Well, the hydrogen is super expensive, and it's at least, I would say, 10 years ahead until it's going to be really available worldwide. However, the renewable natural gas is already here. So it is, I believe someone explained it like that Toyota Prius is bridge itself for the EV vehicles. However, with Hyliion RNG solution, it could even stop there. Of course, Tesla will probably try and develop their fully autonomous semi-truck. However, it will take them more years to make it precise.
Now, technically, renewed natural gas could be deemed 100% renewable, and maybe it seems better because it's actually removing gas from the air, but we've got massive problems with RNG that I'm going to talk about in just a moment. So this is why RNG, or normal compressed natural gas, is deemed a bridge or a transition from coal to renewables. So let's get away from coal and diesel, let's invest in natural gas infrastructure, and then in the future we'll go to hydrogen fuel cells and we'll go to other forms of renewables like batteries, Tesla batteries, or, hydrogen trucks.
How are Tesla's batteries renewables? Will they be made from excrements or some kind of waste? I don't think he got it right, but if he means that the batteries will be charged from the solar panels, there will be some percentage, but most of them will be still needed to be, from some kind of factories to fuel them up or power them up. But yeah, in long future, of course, there will be renewable energy mostly. So yeah, he's all right. He's got a point.
Which Hyliion is open to doing hydrogen fuel cells. So that's kind of where Hyliion plays. Now, there are also lawmakers.
They're open to it, but it's going to take time for society and all the other circumstances to allow Hyliion to use the hydrogen fuel cells because they're really expensive and not that easy to get as the RNG, CNG.
That were interviewed by the New York Times that say, wait a minute, why are we investing any money into natural gas if in the future natural gas is going to go away? If you build a factory now that's supposed to last 100 years, you might only get 30 to 40 years out of use out of that facility. So you're investing a lot of money into natural gas when that will be going away in the future. Thomas Healy says, hey, well, that's 30 or 40 years that we could be taking advantage of more efficient uses in natural gas products. So that's what you're investing in. You're investing in this company that's going to take advantage of natural gas use for the next 30 to 40 years and then transition over into hydrogen, which they will do. So technically it is true that right now Hyliion is trying to clean up a dying industry, but that does not mean Hyliion will die because they will obviously transition with the industry and then move from natural gas into hydrogen. Okay, some more information. In 2000...
Right, that makes that makes kind of sense. So let's just listen to Kevin what he more has to say.
20. Hyliion has had $1 million in revenue. In the third quarter of 2020, Hyliion installed 4 EV hybrid systems. They intend to install 20 total in 2020. In 2021, Hyliion expects $300 million of revenue. In 2022, Hyliion expects $2 billion of revenue. And this is because they expect to ship 2,500 trucks in 2022. However, if I divide 2 billion by 2,500, I get $800,000 of revenue per vehicle. So I know something else needs to come. This is probably Hyliion expecting to dramatically expand their EV marketplace. Because look, they're selling the vehicles for $220,000. They told us that themselves. 2,500 vehicles sold at $220,000 a pop is only $550 million. So that means 75% of their projected 2022 revenue is probably coming from the retrofit hybrid install. 25% of their projected 2022 revenue is coming from these hypertrucks. But again, the hypertrucks are not their truck. So the expenses on that $500 billion in revenue is going to be through the roof because you got to buy the Mack truck or the Freightliner. then retrofit it, then sell it for a profit. The margin on the trucks is going to probably be pretty horrible.
No, you got it wrong. They have partnerships with the manufacturers, which will most likely just make the chassis. I don't know if that's the right word, and then of course they will deliver the chassis to Hyliion. They will just assemble it and it will be done. Or maybe they will deliver the axis and the inside of the truck to the manufacturer, and they will just put it there. They will have their way of how to make it efficient. The way that Kevin is describing it, it's very inefficient, and I don't know why Hyliion would choose to do that if they want to get such a big revenues and they are all about efficiency. It just makes no sense to me. Also, the revenues, what he was talking about, it really didn't add up what he said. Did he say 25% is going to be ERX trucks? I think he just he inverted it. They will get most of their revenue from the hyper ERX trucks, and the rest is the hybrid electric solution. Maybe, and I believe he said like they delivered 4 units. I believe they delivered more than 8, which they said they delivered in their Q3. So maybe he needs to do some more digging. Although he had a lot of tabs open, he maybe needs to dig a little bit deeper, as I do in my channel. But yeah, nobody can know everything.
But the powertrains, that's probably where they're going to make the bulk of their money. That's their expectation, is selling these powertrains. So the truck looks good, but based on their numbers, they said 2,500 trucks in 2020. Based on that, they're hanging a lot of promise into this hybrid system taking off. So this has some people wondering, Kevin, why are they stopping at natural gas fuel cells now? Why don't they just go over into hydrogen? Well, hydrogen, just like the problems we saw with Nikola when we analyzed Nikola, suffers from a massive lack of infrastructure. There aren't enough gas stations that carry hydrogen, so you can't really use hydrogen right now. And I'm gonna hide myself for just a moment, but look at this fuel efficiency chart. That's what we've got here. Here, I'll do the bottom one first, then I'll hide myself. Plug-in electric vehicles. This is how energy gets lost in plug-in electric vehicles. At the end, including all losses, you end up with about 67% energy efficiency with plug-in electric vehicles. This is AKA your Tesla. A fuel cell electric vehicle, which could be hydrogen or natural gas fuel cells, is only currently about 35% efficient. Then we have compressed natural gas vehicles. This is not a fuel cell vehicle. A compressed natural gas vehicle is one that burns natural gas. This is actually deemed the least efficient at only 16%. Now, the difference here, though, is this has to do with personal vehicles. It just shows you the transition from energy production to energy use. This has to do with personal vehicles. That's different because personal vehicles don't need to have as many batteries as a semi-truck would have to have. And certainly if you have a large semi-truck, you've got plenty of room maybe for a fuel cell, and maybe you can improve the efficiency in the process. That's at least the theory. And this explains why it's been so difficult to transform the trucking industry. This explains why there are so few compressed natural gas vehicles and why there are so few hydrogen vehicles, certainly even fewer of those. This is why it's very difficult to get these systems to efficiency. Once efficiency improves, there are massive benefits for trucking. See, trucking doesn't have time to wait for batteries to charge.
Well, yeah, this is Hyliion where they're stepping in, and they will probably most likely look after where the hydrogen, where the renewable natural gas comes from. They'll most likely do partnerships with government in the future, that they'll be able to use the renewable natural gas efficiently, and that they can make great revenues, because it would make sense to claim that you have carbon net negative emissions, and then it would be as on the same level as Tesla's semi-truck. It would make no sense. So therefore they will have to do some agreements, some partnerships, but there's always a solution to that.
Charge up. They need to refuel quickly.
And right now they're also looking really only at the cost efficiency for the fleets. So because fleets really right now care only about how much money they can save, so Hyliion is doing actually great job with that. So when they're being interviewed or they have some investor presentations, they mostly focus on that, because fleets only look at the money right now.
A natural gas or hydrogen truck could be refueled within about 15 minutes from 0 to full. A battery would take substantially more. You'd probably be charging for 45 to 60 minutes for a partial charge, or longer for a full charge. See, if Tesla's trucks travel about 500 miles on a battery charge, and we look at the average use of a truck, we can see that trucks probably are on the road for about 10 hours a day. And let's say literally for the full 10 hours without stops, they're going 60 miles an hour. That is 600 miles. So that does mean you have to incorporate some charging stops with a battery electric truck like what Tesla plans to have. And so this is one of the reasons why they say for hydrogen or the fuel cells like natural gas that Hyliion plans to use, hey, this eliminates stopping.
No, of course they need to stop. They have obligatory pauses, but every time you charge your battery, the efficiency of the battery gets worse, just like with your phone. Anytime you're worried or just like curious why your phone's battery is like the performance is worse and worse over time, it's quite simple. The more times you charge it, the less efficient and the less performance it will have. So this is the explanation why it's actually better for Hyliion when they do not have to charge or refuel their truck as often as Tesla's semi-truck in the future.
But realistically, truckers are going to stop anyway. And even if you had to pit stop for little bits, you could get that extra 100 miles that you need from charging, as long as there's charging infrastructure around. Now, let's finish up the thoughts on natural gas and then get into some other risk factors with Hyliion and some other benefits with Hyliion. So natural gas will likely disappear in the future, we know this, but it does still have these 30 to 50 years. And Hyliion is coming in early in this phase. There's very, very little competition here. In fact, Tesla is arguably Hyliion's biggest competition, and Hyliion might be a little bit ahead of Tesla. They're already getting their systems out on the road. Like their semi-trucks are already out there, or at least I should say semi-trucks with Hyliion's powertrain installed are already out on the road. There's really not much of a difference between, at least from what we're seeing from their website and their disclosures and everything, there's really not much of a difference either between the Hypertruck ERX and the existing powertrain they have, because the Hypertruck is going to be built by existing OEMs, and then they're going to put in.
Well, not really, but yes. Hyliion will implement their powertrain as they said, but that's for the hybrid version. And for the full electric version, they will have the powertrain, the generator, and everything from Hyliion's side. So that's not really the same thing, Kevin, but okay.
In the Hyliion powertrain. Now, presumably, Hyliion would be able to order these trucks with certain pieces or parts already removed, so it's easier for Hyliion to install their system, but that's a question for an engineer.
Well, yeah, Thomas Hyliion is an engineer himself. You're right about that, and you're not. So that's most likely why you're not really getting it. But let's say that Hyliion orders the full truck. Let's say in quote full truck, and without the most expensive parts. So they'll really get just the chassis, and it will be super cheap for them. And let's say they'll equip the truck from inside, the interior, and of course the motor, the generator. So the manufacturer will not even make that much money from it. They will just really sell them or give them just really the cheapest parts of the truck. So there's really absolutely no issue for Hyliion with that.
Furthermore, Hyliion's retrofitted systems, which are already operating on some trucks, Hyliion makes the claim that for these vehicles are 10 to 30% more efficient, and they use an algorithm to make these systems more efficient. We talked about that earlier. However, it's not yet clear if this 10 to 30% efficiency is just a target, or if these vehicles are actually 10 to 30% more efficient than just diesel without the EV system installed.
Well, I have an article which proves that a certain company claims that it is actually 30%, and that they got few units for themselves to test it out, or the hybrid solution installed onto their trucks. And they are very satisfied with the results, and they will be ordering more of these powertrains or the Hyliion hybrid trucks. So that's a video that will be coming out in 2 days, I believe. I'll make this video. But I don't want to go too much into details because I would actually, because this is already a long video, so I'm just keeping it for a next video.
The hybrid system installed.
But it wasn't published from Hyliion's site, so Kevin probably doesn't find it. But I got it sent by one of my viewers, so I'm really grateful for that, guys. So if you have more information like this, please send me the stuff in the comment section, or just write it, where you found this information, so everyone else can find it as well. So it's publicly known information, because we know that Hyliion is terrible with PR, maybe doesn't even have PR at all.
And so this is where a big step going forward for Hyliion is going to be reorders on these powertrain systems. They need to put these systems in where companies are sampling and saying, hey, let's get 1, let's get 2 of these systems transformed, and they need to be blown away with this hybrid efficiency to convince companies to say, let's get our entire fleet going.
Well, it is starting to roll out that the first they get just few trucks, few units, and then they order like 20, 30, 50, and then they will order most likely hundreds of these units. So it is actually looking really good, Kevin. Just do a little bit more due diligence.
Then Hyliion has to get to scale.
I'm curious if he's gonna show some articles or some proof of this, or if he's just like really skeptical about it. Because you can find it on many websites which are specifically focused on trucks. But the mainstream media like Seeking Alpha, Finance Yahoo, Benzinga, Motley Fool, Investor Place, they do not really cover these details, which are not actually really important, because it's basically revenue for Hyliion.
Right now they're doing 4 conversions. 4 conversions at a full price retail of $14,000 per conversion does not lead to enough money to actually be profitable.
They've made way more than this. If he's just talking that company drives with their truck and Hyliion just puts it there for $14,000, I don't know, they've made plenty of those conversions. What the hell?
They don't have the scale to be profitable yet. But that's okay, there are plenty of money-losing companies that do really well. Just look at DocuSign. They lose money like crazy, yet they're like the Xerox of electronic signing. The bigger issue that I have is not Hyliion getting to scale, and I am concerned about, will companies reorder these systems?
Yes, they will. They already are, but all right.
The bigger issue that I have is right now with their reliance on renewable natural gas. I'm going to pull up a figure here so we can get a little bit more insight into renewable natural gas, because this is important, because the big selling point of Hyliion's system is this net negative. But remember, you got to know this first. A Hyliion truck that uses natural gas, you could put whatever natural gas you want into that. Like you could literally take the nozzle at the natural gas fueling station, go, I want regular compressed natural gas. Plug it in, boom, fuels up. Great. Or you could grab the nozzle that says renewable natural gas. Great, plug it in. Or you could take a blend. You could do 10% renewable and 90% compressed natural gas. The problem is, if the pitch is your vehicles are going to be net negative carbon emissions, the customer will always have to choose renewable natural gas.
No, that's not true. The Hyper ERX version will be available to do zero net carbon emissions, or negative carbon emissions actually, with any kind of natural gas in it, and it's going to be 25 miles at least. But yeah, the target of Hyliion is to reduce the emissions as much as possible with the renewable natural gas.
Otherwise, you're not going to get those emission standards negative. The benefit of getting those negative emissions, that net negative carbon emissions by operating your trucks, is you get energy credits. See, there's something in America called cap and trade. And that says that, hey, look, if you have a bunch of energy credits, you can sell those to polluting companies who need those credits because they're putting a bunch of greenhouse gases into the sky and they need to go shopping for credits. It's basically a way of taxing those companies who are being polluters and rewarding the companies who are not being polluters.
Yeah, this is what I don't really understand in the US, but it kind of makes sense. But if there would be just a rule in the US that you can't really pollute the air as much, it would be way easier.
Okay, so it makes sense. You get Hyliion's technology and then just take the frickin' nozzle that says renewable natural gas, plug it in, boom, there we go. It sounds great, Kevin. What's the frickin' problem? Now we got net negative, like just always opt for renewable. Fine, I agree, but there's a really big problem, and it's this. It's this right here. The availability of biomethane from waste compared with diesel and natural gas use in just California. In just California, we have this much availability to make renewable natural gas. So renewable natural gas. This is how much we can make in California. This is how much all of California uses in natural gas. This right here is how much California uses in diesel. And this right here is how much the entire United States could produce in RNG. So, the bottom line...
How does California use so much of the natural gas when they really can't produce it? Like, this doesn't make sense at all. Where did he take this graph? Like, how is this?
From this right here is if the entire United States produced RNG, it would only make up this small fraction here of this bar chart of just California's natural gas use. In other words, there's not enough RNG for everyone. It's just not available. And this is very clearly studied. UC Davis said that if we put together all of the biogas to make renewable natural gas, we'd get 82 billion cubic feet per year of renewable natural gas. However, California in 2017 used 2,110 billion cubic feet of natural gas. And now if we narrow this just down to transportation for California, because you could obviously use natural gas for heating and burning stuff on a stove or cooking stuff on a stove.
I just realized, do you know that Hyliion is not unlimited to United States? You know, in Europe, we have plenty of natural gas and nobody here uses it. So it is, Hyliion's problem is that it's in the United States. And in the United States, it's a land and country of diesel and oil and stuff like that. You know, there are memes about America and United States soldiers, you know, overtaking countries because of oil and etc. You know, but in Europe, we have so much natural gas stations, and not such a small percentage of, you know, trucks or cars using the CNG or RNG, you know, whatever. There is really bigger, as the Hyliion's potential is absolutely enormous if you just think outside the box. You know, Hyliion doesn't equal US. It is kind of shame that if they would start in Europe, they would have much easier, and way better approach. And Kevin wouldn't have to talk here for a few minutes, nonsense in my opinion. But everyone has the different view on the topic. And I have to respect that, so.
For just transportation in 2017, there was a report from the Union of Concerned Scientists showing that it would take the entire US production of renewed natural gas to transition California's diesel use to natural gas. We saw that on the chart. A Washington State University says they could get 3 to 5% of all of their diesel use moved over to RNG. Just 3 to 5%. Or in Washington. In Oregon...
Yeah, and do you know that also Hyliion's is just, I don't know, projecting 2% of the overall market, so it actually kind of works out, even with these, studies, what he's reading.
They said they might be able to get to 10 to 20%. And another study was conducted by the Gas Foundation, which Gas Foundation is obviously pro you using gas, right? They said, so this is going to be a favorable study, they said by 2040, maybe 6 to 13% of US demand for pipeline gas could be renewed natural gas if it was combined with synthetic natural gas. So now producing, getting another product in the mix, which has to be produced. So
it's actually looking really good. If Hyliion is targeting, I don't know how much is it, around 2% of the overall market, and they are reaching or aiming to get so much revenue with only 2%, it's absolutely accomplishable in my opinion. And there, I believe that's only projection for the US. And so if they will get noticed in Europe, or they will transition to Europe, and they have pre-orders from Agility, who is worldwide a logistic company, it shouldn't be too hard for Hyliion to scale, really.
This was so much of an issue that UPS said they have 6,800 natural gas powered vehicles. But Jim Bruce, a senior vice president at UPS, says they want all of their vehicles to be natural gas, but there's only so much renewable natural gas out there.
This is the issue, that the companies such as UPS, who are using the vehicles for being fueled by natural gas, is that they're not using it very efficiently. And Hyliion comes in place and it will save cost efficiency, and they will improve the efficiency of the natural gas via their algorithms, and then their Hyper ERX truck, which will use the generator and all the good stuff.
We want to deploy at scale, and when the trucks are ready, we will deploy at scale. This is a reference to, hey, when we actually have the fuel available, or we have like a hydrogen infrastructure and the infrastructure's ready, we'll move over everything to this renewable stuff. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that at some point in the future, hydrogen is going to be great for long-haul trucking, and is going to exist much more than it does now. But hydrogen doesn't. And natural gas is not that much more efficient than diesel, and it's not that much less expensive to make sense of you transitioning over to just using regular compressed natural gas. If you want to use renewable natural gas, that's good because you get green fuel tax credits, but there's not enough of that around for everybody to have access to it. And obviously, if demand went up substantially, then it would be reasonable for the price of renewable natural gas to go up substantially as well. The other problem is, because we might be thinking like, well, why don't we just make more renewable natural gas? Right, but remember, renewable natural gas comes from companies actually capturing off gases from farms and landfills. But those farms and landfills get punished for those off gases. They have to pay to get those gases removed. And so they're incentivized to actually make it so that there are less gases coming off their farms and their landfills.
It also can be solved with some agreements and partnership. It's not an issue if there just need to be few things to go well and it's all solved. So I don't really see this as an issue, and it's like maybe 10 years ahead this is going to be a problem, but for 5 to 10 years investment, it's not really concerning me.
And so what you really have is more demand needed for, or more demand that's here, creating more of a need for renewable natural gas, but the big source of renewable natural gas is actually trying to reduce their emissions, which provide you renewable natural gases. So you've got like this really crappy situation where every single time I see Hyliion say, hey, we are net negative, or we're net carbon negative, you gotta have that asterisk in your head. Only if you can get RNG. Without RNG, sorry, it doesn't work.
I think he just didn't went through the investor presentation. So, it is nice that he points out some issues that are gonna be really big far in the future. However, he didn't do enough due diligence. I believe he was just looking for points to bust the Hyliion, just like some really bearish points. So maybe he attracts the attention, but he didn't really get many views, just like 70,000 views. And within a week or so, it's just a fail video from Meet Kevin from the views point. Whenever he does like new stimulus check video, it gets at least like 100,000 views within a few hours. So he didn't really target the right audience on his channel.
Hyliion would be a much more interesting play. Sorry, it doesn't work. If you can get RNG. Without RNG, sorry, it doesn't work. Hyliion would be a much more interesting play if they pushed hydrogen and killed Nikola, which Nikola's pretty much already dead. I mean, Hyliion could just open the door to hydrogen and they would pretty much kill Nikola.
Well, they have in their investor presentation, which you obviously didn't went through correctly, or I don't know, they have there that their Hyper ERX will be available for RNG and hydrogen. But as you said, and everyone knows, hydrogen is not really the most intriguing fuel available. So this is kind of just, it needs a little bit more time, maybe 5 to 10 years, and Hyliion can easily transfer to hydrogen. Maybe there will be some US president who will go like, all right, we need to build hydrogen stations ASAP, and Hyliion will be like, all right, we can roll with that. We just put hydrogen instead of natural gas inside our trucks, and we are ready to go. Everyone will start buying our trucks. So I don't see it as a problem.
I don't think anybody believes in Nikola right now. So I do think that there is a play with Hyliion's system here. But I think their focus on natural gas is going to make a lot of trucking companies look into this, and they're going to call up Hyliion and go, yo, talk to us about these hybrid systems. Yeah, well, hey, look, if you use RNG, you'll get a much more efficient system at a cheaper price, and it'll be hybrid, and we'll use our computer technology to make your existing truck more viable, blah, 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 blah. Great. Then where can I get some RNG in my neighborhood? Oh, crap. I can only get it at that station, and that station. Now, the CEO of Hyliion says, hey, look, any natural gas company or distributor or station, any natural gas station can order renewable natural gas. It's fine, but again, there's only so much of it available.
Well, even there, Hyliion is also aiming just to make the cost efficiency with the natural gas. And he repeats this, and I will repeat my sentence as well. But it's just a thing that the hybrid solution, which is just heading more for the performance. It's just like imagine turbo, and it's the hybrid solution of Hyliion. So just, I don't know, if we just went this point, like I'm heading, he would see the picture from my point of view and not his point of view.
Okay, now let's talk a little bit about a couple issues with some large pre-orders for Hyliion's trucks. They're not really Hyliion's trucks, but I think I've explained that thoroughly now. One is Agility Logistics. Agility Logistics has a 1,000 unit pre-order. This is true. Now, here's the problem with Agility Logistics. Agility Logistics invested $325 million into Hyliion's SPAC at $10 per share. Hyliion's stock right now is $18. That means they made 80% off their investment in the first few months. Part of this excitement for Hyliion is driven by Agility Logistics pre-order. So it's kind of like Agility Logistics invests in Hyliion and then buys a bunch of the product. And now Hyliion turns around and says, look at all these product sales we have, and uses that to market their product, essentially, because Agility Logistics is using it. But they're a beneficiary if Hyliion does very well. So there's a little bit of a bias in this $325 million pre-order. Of course they're going to pre-order 5 times as many. They're an investor, so they benefit off prices going up. So it's a little bit biased. The other...
Well, they could buy a pre-order 5,000 trucks, but I believe 1,000 trucks is like for the first point. And I don't see the problem if you invest in company and you buy or you pre-order the products. I don't see the problem with that. If there's some problems with legislations in the US, I'm not aware of it. But I don't see the problem of investing in company and buying their products. I mean, there have been other companies which were doing this and it was all right. So... I don't know.
Pre-order. Like literally the only other pre-order that they've announced is American Natural Gas. And it's kind of important to look at their letter and understand their letter because it'll make a lot more sense what's going on here. So let's pull it up. Here we go. Hyliion, a leader in electrified powertrain solutions for Class 8 commercial vehicles, aka semi-trucks in English. And American Natural Gas, an industry-leading alternative fuel provider, announced today a partnership agreement that offers Hyliion customers discounted pricing for RNG. That's awesome, at A&G fueling stations. I mean, everybody wants RNG, that's great. If we have enough of it, we gotta get enough of it. For qualifying fleet customers, A&G has also agreed to build new fueling stations near Hyliion's customer locations with no upfront capital costs for such customers. Well, this makes sense. That second part there does not really mean anything because the reality is if UPS had a ton of Hyliion trucks, obviously Hyliion this gas company here, American Natural Gas, would be incentivized to put a gas station close to that UPS because they would just constantly be able to sell them the gas they need. It's literally like a gas company's dream. Yes, please, let us put you the Coke machine where people are really thirsty. That's how you milk money. So that's normal. That second part there doesn't really mean anything. You know, this idea of, hey, if you use A&G fueling stations, we'll give you a discount. Doesn't mean much either. Hyliion and A&G also agreed or entered into a sales agreement that includes a pre-order of up to 250 Hypertrucks, allowing for early availability of Hyliion's fully electric powertrain to A&G and its fleet customers. So really what they're doing here is A&G, which is kind of confusing because there's RNG. American Natural Gas Company is saying, hey, we put in 250 reservations, and it's kind of like they're putting in this reservation for their clients. So that way they could call them up and go, hey, UPS, we got 250 trucks secured, and you could fuel them with RNG at our stations. You want to buy them? We have no guarantees that UPS is going to go, yeah, like we'll buy those, and then for A&G to actually fulfill their pre-orders.
So just why would a company pre-order up to 250 Hypertruck ERX vehicles? Like, why would someone do that? Pay that much money for the pre-orders, for the binding pre-orders, and just not, like, you know what I mean? It really doesn't matter if someone will buy it off the ANG, as Kevin says. For Hyliion, it's important to just sell them or deliver them to the ING, you know. So it's really not that. I don't really see Kevin's point in this one. Maybe if you can let me know in comments, but I don't really get it.
So both of the pre-orders that they've announced are a little flawed in my opinion. Now look, I love the idea of what they've got going on. But the bottom line is, Hyliion is a long-run play in, ultimately, the hydrogen fuel space. Hyliion will probably evolve into what Nikola should have been. In the medium term, they are a player in the hybridization market for trucks and in the natural gas fuel cell market. They will benefit substantially if compressed natural gas becomes more popular and if their ERX system proves profitable. Now remember, their new truck here that they're making, the Hypertruck ERX, which will be manufactured by Mack and Freightliner and all that, those will be fully electric vehicles like we described earlier. They will put their powertrains in there. There won't even be the hybrid part. Just want to clarify that in case I didn't. So yeah, number one, you got the hybrid, take the existing diesel truck, put the hybrid in. The new system, the new truck, the Hypertruck here, which again, manufactured by Freightliner and Mack and all that, it's just gonna have basically the Hyliion guts. But remember, they are not in the business of manufacturing the cars. They're just gonna make them a fuel cell electric vehicles. Hyliion will benefit if either of these take off. The hybridization model, if that takes off, great. If it doesn't, that's really bad. Because if the hybridization doesn't take off, then it's gonna be difficult for them to push their fuel cell truck.
Right now it's taking off quite nicely, so let's continue.
Their fuel cell truck itself potentially will prove profitable, but I think that's where companies who need to order trucks will look at Hyliion and say, wait a minute, why would I pay $220,000 for the Hyliion truck when I could pay $130,000 to $150,000 for a truck and I'll just burn more diesel for the next 10 years until this stuff actually gets more efficient?
Well, you know, in 10 years, you save a lot of money using Hyper ERX truck. And then you can just switch the fuel cell, and you just then, you know, start refueling the instead of RNG or CNG, you'll start using hydrogen. So it is a win-win for the company to buy. It is a win-win for the company to buy their truck. It's really not that hard to understand it, Kevin.
Sure, I want to buy RNGs and get those tax credits, but it's not readily available everywhere. See, we got lots of issues here. There's also a short seller called Bonitas Research that says there is no evidence that the ERX system actually improves efficiency. Now, obviously, they're going to say that they're a short seller. Hyliion's pre-orders are also a bit biased. Then, we know that their revenues are scant because they're a brand new freaking company. They're also not very vertically integrated, and they openly say they don't want to be. They partner with Dana Manufacturing to make all of their EV powertrains, so they don't even make their own powertrains. Their modifications are done by Fontaine Modifications, another partner, and their designs are from IAV Automotive Engineering. So, what about growth? Well, I think that's the play here, right? After Hyliion's IPO, Hyliion mentioned that many companies have been reaching out to learn more. They didn't say in their earnings call that people placed more orders. They just said people have been calling to learn more. And so this...
But it's always good that the companies are calling to you. They're interested in their products. They've been doing also interviews with many channels, on from many other companies, on some other conferences, and you know, they're just getting slowly the publicity out. They just were really careful so they do not end up like Nikola, because Nikola has put Hyliion in a really crappy spot, let's just say it that way.
It makes me wonder, does it make sense to invest? Would I invest? And what's the growth look like, and what's the future look like? Well, the first thing that I would do is I would write down as a catalyst, end of 2021, are people who are taking the hybrid powertrains and people who are taking the first prototype deliveries of the Hypertruck ERX, the natural gas fuel cell vehicle, are they taking these products and buying more? That is the most important thing. Look, anybody can commission a study that says something. And to be clear, there is no such study yet that proves the efficiency of Hyliion systems. But the proof is ultimately in the pudding, in sales. I love the concept of what Hyliion is doing. However, this is a company that's just too young for me to dive in. I need to see some actual freight companies not just install a few of these systems, but call back and go, dude, this...
Well, they need to install a few of their systems so they can test it out before they'll just pay a lot of money for all the other trucks for big numbers. So it only makes sense to me that if I would run a fleet company, I would definitely get 1 or 2 maybe units, do different kind of tests, test it out myself, and if I would see, all right, it's doing 20 to 30%, we take them, we can save that much money for this time period. We want more of these trucks, it's all right. But if they will do tests and it will be some bad tests and it will be only like, I don't know, 5 to 10%, I would do, no, we don't take that, we don't want it, it's not worth our time. And this is just how it goes, you know. I don't know what Kevin expects, that there will be companies like, all right, we want 10,000 of your units without any tests, we want 100,000 of your trucks. No, it's not how it works. And I think he knows that, but he just wants to prove his point.
This is dope. Hook me up with 1,000 more. That's what I want. I don't even care if you can't manufacture them all yet. I want to hear that people are clamoring for this technology. I want to see other companies getting in to compete with you because that means there's demand. If there's demand, there's more competition. But right now, I'm not convinced that the demand is there. This is where you'll oftentimes hear other people on YouTube, and this isn't to bash anybody.
Well, there are not other companies who would have technology that Hyliion has, because Hyliion bought it for quite a nice price and they patented it. So it's kind of like they got rid of their competition at the start and they are kind of popular in this niche, and they really found a good niche. So, it kind of cross-checked them from any competitions. However, Tesla, they give out some base of their knowledge to public. So if other companies want to start, they can, and I believe other companies just took it as an opportunity, and there you have Tesla, Xpeng, NIO, Li Auto, and more. So this is why it's not much competition for Hyliion.
But there are a bunch of other people on YouTube, I hear them all the time, they're like, look at my discounted cash flow model for Hyliion or whatever. And I'm like, that's great. But in order to run a discounted cash flow analysis, you have to project future revenue. And you're projecting future revenue using the numbers that the company is giving you, not anything based on actual sales. Because we can't project revenue with 20 vehicles having hybrid systems installed. It's just not possible. So this is really just... This is a bet. This is a bet that Hyliion is going to make it and people are going to keep reordering these systems. If you believe that what I've described about Hyliion systems and, you're comfortable with the limited availability of RNG and the fact that that availability is going to shrink and not grow, then maybe invest in Hyliion. Personally, I think Hyliion could be a very interesting investment if they started pushing the hydrogen infrastructure like Nikola was trying to do. Hydrogen, that would get me very, very excited. Natural gas fuel cells with the limited availability of this RNG and this reliance on this hybrid system, which we don't know if people are going to come back and continue to buy this, makes me nervous. Now, fortunately, Hyliion has raised over $530 million from their IPO, and they've got another $140 million in warrants that they can turn into cash. So they got the money. We just got to see if the demand is there. In the meantime, I'm going to be fully transparent here. I own 0 Hyliion shares. I am not going to buy Hyliion shares. I'm not going to short Hyliion. Maybe I'll buy Hyliion when we actually get some real orders, not pre-orders, some real orders. In the meantime, I will buy Tesla stock. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
So, for the conclusion, what he said, Hyliion, it seems like Hyliion will be using CNG, RNG for the next 5, 10, 15 years. And I believe he didn't think of Europe or just exporting or importing the natural gas into US, because US is not really the land of natural gas. It's more of Europe, Russia and the Middle East as well with the oil. But this is not one thing. Then the other thing, they can really freely, after they will raise capital, more capital maybe, there might be even some share dilution in 3 to 5 years after they will explode with their ERX truck. And he described Hyliion as a bet. You know, what would you call a Tesla in 2012? I don't know. It would be bad as well. You know, they were not profitable for so many years. And technically, Hyliion is profitable if you take the money, how much money they have. They have over $600 million. And they were like net, their profitability was like negative 9 million. So they have so much money. They are so good set up that I'm just in love with them. And I would buy more if I had more money, but I have no money available for Hyliion or, you know, other stocks as well. I'm just fully invested and I'm not really too worried. In short term, there might be some volatile thing. It might go down, it might go up, it might go down again. But overall, in the next year is going to be a huge year for Hyliion. There are going to be more hybrid solution deliveries. I have an article, a new video coming up in 2 days as well, so stick for that. And there are going to be ERX truck, you know, it will be first prototypes, there will be tests, there will be some, as you said, studies, and the revenues will start growing really nicely, and I'm not too worried about that. Hyliion is just right now trying to get the work done. This is what I like about them the most. They're trying to get the work done. They do not really care about some bearish articles, bearish news, some short sellers, because they know it's most of the time just talk, and they don't know themselves the best what they are dealing with. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope I brought you some value, some, I don't know, reassurance as well. And if I did, please subscribe to the channel. There's daily stock videos, and I'm trying as hard as I can to get to 1,000 subscribers by Christmas. It would be an amazing gift, I can't lie to you, it would be just great. And click on that like button if you enjoyed the video. It both helps me out tremendously. And if you have any questions, or let me know what do you think. I'm always reading the comments. I'm curious what you guys think, and I hope this video somehow help you clear some things up. I'm sorry for my English. I'm not natural English speaker. It's not my native language, and I've made some grammatical errors. Or even right now, you know, it's kind of hard for me to speak, you know, out of nowhere in the secondary language. But I tried my best, and I hope you appreciate it and you found this video somehow helpful. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in another video.